everyone. This is your host, Priyanka,
and your co-host Zara.
and welcome to our podcast. We are going to talk about Gen Z, that is Generation C, in the workforce and their future.
So, as you guys can see, this is episode 2. And in the previous episode, we talked about our own experiences in the workplace as generation and an objective perspective of it from a HR manager in the Hindu, Miss Anuradha ma'am. Now, as we go through this, let's talk about the fact that work life balance is something that Gen Z prioritizes a much more than any other previous generations.
Exactly. Like, if you go through LinkedIn on any day, you're going to find 10 posts with C suite executives talking about how work life balance is a myth and no one should have it. But it's ironic, while they're typing this in their vacation suite or villa in some holiday place, their employees are made to work at least 12 to 13 hours a day in their office and probably don't see their families as much as they want to. So why is it so easy to disregard work-life balance, and why are many of us called selfish for even wanting one?
Isn't it all rooted at the fact people who advocate for work life balance so heavily? It is rooted in the fact that the work that we are doing is for our life, is for our loved ones, for our family, to enjoy the life that you've been wanting to have and to find a way to relax at the end of it all. But as work seeps into your life more and more, that stress keeps on glooming over your head so much that work life balance almost doesn't exist anymore. So, as they say, that maybe you can work till 5 and even 6 if your work overseas exceeds. But having that stress over you for so long, I've seen so many of our colleagues, our friends have that stress on them for so long that their life becomes ruins. That stress holds over them, that it's affecting their families, it's affecting their friends, it's affecting their mental health. And I think that is also a root value of work life balance, that it needs to be stable enough that it doesn't take over their life mentally and time wise.
Exactly. The new thing is that work is not your entire life. We work so that we can live, right? Living begins outside the 9 to 5, and this is probably why so many of us struggle to survive the corporate culture of a 9 to 5 and also a text at 10 p.m. Your Sundays are going to be spent in your boss's room and not your partner or friends. When that's maybe okay to some, but I think what's important is to acknowledge that not everyone should be okay with it, or don't want to be okay with such a lifestyle.
So, as we try to consider the fact that we don't want the work to take over our lives completely, it is considered selfish because, in some regards, as you see it work wise, you're like, I care more about the work than you do just because you don't want it to consume your entire 24 hours of your life. And as though one can see how it is hard. For example, a teammate logs off exactly at 5 and a teammate has to sit down and work till 8. I think it is on the company or on the administration to make sure that this doesn't happen. There have been a lot of companies, including MNCs, who've started implicating a policy which shows that you have to log out. You have to log out at the same time. It's okay regardless if the work is done or not. You have to log out. And that's something that has been combated by a lot of older generations because they're worried that the work is not going to get done. But that's something that younger generations, especially Gen Z, is applauding highly.
And it's actually nice to see such change, right? So one more thing that we see is how people don't really stick to one job. You go to anyone's LinkedIn experience and you're going to find them in 10 different companies over just 1 or 2 years. And maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but I think it also opens up to a generation that is well versed in different skills and a diverse set of skills. So if your interview is going to ask you, why do you change so many jobs? Your perfect response is, well, I've equipped myself with something new and different, and a different mentor to equip me with more incentivized knowledge.
But as someone who has worked so intimately in HR and is involved in the recruitment process a lot, I found out that Gen Z, as they are more as they are more receptive to joining other companies for better pays, for better benefits, for better benefits or better work-life balance, it also translates to their way of adaptability.
Exactly.
Or millennials or older generations or boomers or baby boomers, when you see that they've worked in a company for 20 years, you know it's going to be a hard time training them.
Yeah.
You have to bring them out of that.
The
met-
unlearning concept is
yeah,
so hard.
the methods that they learned in that company is so rooted in their lives,
Exactly.
and it's so hard for them to unlearn it immediately. However, that is studies show that that is not a problem with Gen Z as much. Gen Z has been one of the most adaptable generations in the past 50 decades,
Yeah.
according to a study by Gallup, especially in workplaces and the methods that they chose. Most of the Gen Z has been more than innovative, coming up with new ideas and breaking the traditional ways of doing it, and coming up with more creative, more faster, and more efficient works.
Which really makes us think, company loyalty might be a great thing, but I think it is a thing of the past. Adaptability is what Gen Z brings to the table, and I think that's the way the future should be. And also, an interesting thing is they want something fulfilling more than just a paycheck. That's why we see a huge rise in, Gen Z participating in NGOs and social work whenever they have time. And honestly, that is the true change we need. In India, only 0.1% of the entire Indian population actually volunteers. And to see a rise in the younger generation participating in such things is truly inspiring.
So corporations have come up with the policy and have come up with the observation backed by scientific and humanitarian research that employees who have been working in NGOs side by side have shown better skills at team spirit, at empathy, as well as productivity. And that's something they seem because they care about the work that they do, they are giving back to the society, and that translates on to the work that they do in the corporation. It means they're giving back to the society through the corporation, they're giving back to the society that feeds them, that takes care of them, let it be the
Absolutely.
world or the corporation. So as they see that NGOs, people who work in NGOs are showing better spirits of team spirit. Parallelly, there are other reports that show that 28 percentage of Gen Zs across in a global study shows that 1 in 3 Gen Z volunteers.
That's
Is politically
amazing.
involved, yeah. And because of that, let it be in NGOs, in social movements, in causes that they're passionate about to give back to the society, it is showing a lot of spirit. And as the Anuradha ma'am talked about how it is affecting them, it is affecting the team spirit and the general spirit of it all. I think Gen Z is very special in bringing that atmosphere into corporations.
Absolutely. And we also see a rise in freelancing opportunities beyond just a corporate office or, staying at home and remote work or hybrid work, which is what Gen Z tends to prefer these days. And such opportunities or such, scope of employment is truly amazing because, you're not restricted to a particular interview or a particular line of work. You have the freedom to actually explore what you like, and you can literally make money doing anything. It's no longer just the three, you know three degrees that decide the rest of your life. It's no longer engineering, law, or medicine. We have opened the space and scope for so many other opportunities, and I think that is truly inspiring and hopeful for us as a generation.
Not just that, but as we talk about passive income, our older generations have viewed passive income as something that their parents taught them. Let it be try to gain real estate as much as possible because that is the best investment. Buy gold, buy the so real estate was the major form of passive income for our older generations. But as we see Generation Z being exposed online to social media, to the various aspects of the internet, we see that they have taken freelancing, NFTs, bitcoins, meme coins, and so much more. And not only that, there are studies that show that 64% of Gen Zs feel that there's constant financial instability in the economic world, and therefore, uh, financial instability in the economic world, and therefore cannot be trusted with a salaried work all the time, and therefore they've taken to financial opportunities that involve them taking big risks. We see 17-year-olds putting on sports bets, buying meme bitcoins.
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't see a 13-year-old millionaire like 20, 30 years ago, but it's the thing right now. And that's what's truly innovative with the way the workforce and the market and the opportunities available has evolved.
I think the best way we can get the true insights about this is by talking to someone who's actually been part of the market force. So, presenting Miss Ramya, someone who's worked a multitude of jobs and someone who's also part of Gen Z. Her expertise, knowledge, and insight is truly going to marvel us. A dear friend of mine, but also someone who's there, whose knowledge is definitely going to change our life. I'm so glad to have you, Ramya.
So this debate about how Gen Z cannot survive the corporate culture is something that I have reflected a lot on recently. It's not even something that I've stopped reflecting on. It's something that I reflect on a daily right now, personally, because I am in that place where I'm trying to figure out. I've been that person who's like, corporate life is not for me. But slowly I've been thinking about it. And, I've also seen that there's a lot of good things that come out from corporate culture, right? I've seen my friend who works in a corporate. She does complain about how her manager is not great. There is a lot of disrespectful behavior that she is trying to tolerate. And she does take her time off from work and, uses it, goes on a lot of vacations because she says that's how she can function. It's it's like it's these things that you have to find, these balances and these workarounds. But at the same time, I think it's important to do such experiences because I see in specifically in our age, in my age group of people, which is considered this Gen Z age group, I think a lot of things stem from the the problem of plenty, because we have been blessed with a lot. It's slowly becoming more prominent in the Indian society. It's definitely a lot more prominent in the Western society, or in more developed nations. But what I feel is that this problem of choice is something that plays into all facts of our life, right? Whether it's our personal lives in terms of relationships, whether it's our social lives in terms of how we view society and how society views us, and whether it's our work, right, in our professional lives. So this problem of choice really plays into how we make a lot of the decisions, right? So it's always been something that we have struggled with, because I have seen both ends of the spectrum, and I'm struggling to see where I fit in the whole grand schemes of things, right? So when you look at professional life and when you look at corporate versus non-corporate, I've seen both ends of the spectrum. I've seen the people who say, like, corporate life is not for me, and go on to build something themselves and end up building a big corporate that people want to work in. And I've also seen how, which is very relevant today, how these 18-year-old 19-year-olds are building the next big AI startup, right? So it's very it's very relevant, and with how technology is advanced today, it's become more and more and more and more easy to do so. But for 100, I don't know the actual data, probably before it used to be 10, now it's probably 20, and now it could become 30, survive from the 100 that start. But there are also those faction of 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds who are like getting into IITs and working really hard so that they get into these big corporates like Microsoft or Google. And it's because they also feel that there's something that is set there within those sphere of things, that somewhere my feeling is that, um while these disrespectful behavior shouldn't be tolerated by anybody, it's something as a society we are working on. We're probably better because we've become more aware as a society, but it's with that awareness comes its own problems, right? Now that you're aware, what are you going to do about is the next question. So it ties into this whole thing. Now that you're aware that corporates have this, what are you going to do about it? I think it's about trying to figure out the question about, instead of making drastic measures, slowly work towards creating balance. You know, pull through, see how much you can do, and balance in a healthy way. Obviously, I've had experiences where I have disagreed with my boss and I immediately quit the job the next day, um, because I felt the environment wasn't positive, and I felt that it was in the best interest for me mentally, in terms of my mental health, to quit the job. So, and this wasn't even a big corporate. This was a small company of comparatively, right? So, you know, it's about finding the balances. But every job I've taken, I've stayed longer, and I have also put up with more. Like, I'm able to put up with a lot more inefficiencies from my manager's side, or imperfections that I feel are there on the other side, which are there are plenty from my side as well. I'm able to put up with a lot more now, and stay the course longer. So it was only because I took that call once, I learned from it. There were rights in my call, and there were some things that I did wrong, but that helped me grow onto my next step. So that's my point. Like, you could take the call, pull through, push through, and work 10 years in a corporate, then quit, and then finally find your calling. But whatever you did before, these are all experiences you learn from. So, my point of view, or what I'm currently telling myself, is I don't know how, whether this lands on agreement with this statement or disagreement with this statement is, but it's more that these are things that will exist. As a society, we've become more aware. As a person, I've become more aware, and I'm now trying to navigate that ocean of, what do I do about it now? How do I find the balance now? So I think those are the questions that we should all be asking. And I also think that slowly Gen Z will get to that point, right? Because they're new to the workforce, and expecting them to work like an experienced person is wrong. And from the other side, and at the same time, there is a weight to that experience that as Gen Z we should be getting, and we have not yet gotten that. We are just used to things happening at a much faster pace. So that's probably something we have to figure out. And the fact that we can do things at a faster pace is something that the older generation of the workforce has to figure out. So we're both sort of playing catch up, and that's where I feel a lot of these questions sort of stem from.
Thank you so much, guys. And this will be the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for staying with us for this beautiful journey as we explore the various aspects of the stereotype which is given to Gen Z in this recent work environment. Thank you so much for exploring the various aspects of it, not only from the HR, from employers, from employees, as well as Gen Z. Thank you so much, guys. And this is your co host, Zara Zafia, signing off.
And this is your co host, Priyanka, signing off. Hope to see you not just as our listeners, but as colleagues and friends in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.